This is Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
I'm the only lawyer ever to obtain a court ruling that a president of the United States committed a crime.
For truth. For competition.
As a young lawyer, I helped break up AT&T. That's why you have all your cell phones today.
For sovereignty. For the Republic.
I'm the guy who at Judicial Watch, which I founded, uncovered the Chinagate scandal. Millions of dollars going to the Clinton campaign, corrupting our political system.
For the privacy of citizens.
And I'm the only guy to have enjoined the National Security Agency from mass surveillance on hundreds of millions of Americans.
Tearing it up.
I'm the son of meat packers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
Bringing it back.
We're going to take this country apart and put it back together again in the way envisioned by our founding fathers.
It's not just talk.
We're not just regurgitating news stories. Larry Klayman, special prosecutor, is making the news.
And now, here's Larry.
Welcome to this week's edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. We have another great show. There's a lot of news this week, and I really want to put it in perspective. As I said in my WorldNet Daily column last week, I don't want to keep harping on an old theme, but we need to get this through to the American people. We need to rise up. We need to do what we think is right, and we need to take matters into our own legal hands. And we're going to have a guest later in the show, Golan, in Israel, where the Israelis are having to take matters into their own hands, too, because their government is up against a very vicious Jewish left, which ironically is trying to destroy the state of Israel. We're going to talk about that, just like the left is trying to destroy the state of the United States. I want to talk about the hearings that were held on Capitol Hill this week, the joint committee hearings in the House of Representatives of the Judiciary Committee and the Government Oversight and Reform Committee. The Judiciary Committee is chaired by Representative Bob Golan, and of course the Oversight and Reform Committee is chaired by Representative Trey Gowdy. What we saw on Capitol Hill, it was unbelievable. It was unseemly. It was disgusting, really. They brought in Peter Strzok, and of course they tried to bring in Lisa Page, the two lovebirds, who did everything they could to subvert the Hillary Clinton email investigation and everything they could to start a so-called Russian collusion investigation against then candidate Trump and now President Trump. And let's talk about Strzok first, because the level of arrogance, the level of disdain, the level of criminality, the level of, it was unbelievable. I mean, frankly, it was like you sitting there watching the devil sneer at you for about 6 or 7 hours last Thursday. Now, what really troubles me, though, is that we didn't learn anything at that hearing. Everything that was said and done, all we saw was the demeanor of Strzok, but we didn't learn anything of substance that we didn't already know for many, many months, that they wanted to destroy the president, Strzok and Page, that they talked about an insurance policy, that they did other things to compromise the United States. In fact, using private cell phones, which were hacked by foreign powers. All of this has been known. So this was great entertainment, and it makes tremendous ratings on Fox News and some other publications and things like that. But it creates a tremendous feeling of frustration in me, which I felt for many, many years. This is why I founded Judicial Watch back in 1994. It's why I ran for the U.S. Senate in 2003 to 2004 in the Republican primary as a true Republican, not these Republican hacks that you see up there on Capitol Hill. And it's why I started Freedom Watch after that Senate campaign. Every morning I get up and I try to think. I get up around 5:30 a.m., by the way. I go to work out. I'm thinking while I'm working out. I go to work early. I'm thinking, what can I do and what can our patriot followers and supporters do to turn this country around? We don't have a justice system. It's gone. You know, let's take a look at what's happening on Capitol Hill. Yeah, it's entertainment. And, of course, Sean Hannity and Fox News, he has the same people on every night. The ratings go up. The only one with real integrity on Fox News is Judge Andrew Napolitano, and I'm going to get to that later. But the rest of them are basically just boosting the network, boosting themselves. And I hate to say this because I watch Fox News, too, for news. But we need a catalyst to change the country. It's not enough just to have entertainment each night. And I hope that the American people are starting to see that, because our Congress is worse than a dog and pony show. The Democrats were despicable. I mean, all they did at that hearing last Thursday was to try to destroy President Trump, to defame him. And the Republicans, all they were doing was boosting their own electoral chances and fundraising. Because if these people actually cared about this country in any great degree, they would be forcing the hand of Attorney General Jeff Sessions and his corrupt deputy to take action. And the president is preoccupied right now with North Korea, with Iran, with the European Union and trade, with Brexit, with immigration. I mean, the poor guy has a hard time focusing, okay, because he's getting bad advice, as I've said over and over again. He needs to order the Justice Department to do what needs to be done. These people need to be prosecuted. Everybody from Peter Strzok to Lisa Page, the Lovebirds, to Robert Mueller, who's committed crimes. It was confirmed this week that he leaked grand jury information with regard to the investigation of Paul Manafort. Even the liberal leftist Politico publication confirmed that. We're going to get a big trove of documents on September 4th, which will show that as well. Hopefully that'll be the end of Mueller. Comey needs to be indicted, tried, convicted, sentenced, citizens arrests. Of course, Hillary Clinton, she's out there. This week she's announcing, in effect, that she's going to run for president again. With her actions she's talking, not with deeds. And this is the state that we're in. We don't have a Congress that will take any action. We don't have a Department of Justice that will take any action. The president's preoccupied in the White House. The judiciary is packed with a bunch of politicians, for the most part, a bunch of political hacks. I mean, we saw this week 3 leftist judges on the D.C. Circuit, that's the appeals court and the federal court, wouldn't let Manafort out of solitary confinement. Just a coincidence that they're all Obama and Clinton appointees? We're starting to understand the way our justice system works. Our justice system is a cesspool. I know that. I'm a lawyer of 41 years. That's why I started Judicial Watch in 1994. I saw it before anybody else saw it, clearly, but it's gotten worse. How can you have a justice system when there's no Justice Department? How can you have a justice system when the judges are politicized hacks, by and large? How can you have a justice system when the president's not taking control of the situation? How can you have a justice system when Congress just does dog and pony shows but never holds anybody accountable for lying under oath, that Strzok did, or Page for not showing up? No one can. It's totally out of control. So here's the bottom line, men and women, patriots of this country. We have to rise up. Yes, I am harping on a similar theme that I raised last week and weeks before that. We need citizens' grand juries. Justice Antonin Scalia, in 1992, United States versus Williams, said the grand jury does not belong to the 3 branches of government. It belongs to the American people. We need to impanel grand juries, neutral voter rolls. We need to indict Hillary Clinton. We need to indict Robert Mueller. We need to indict James Comey. We need to indict the heads of the intelligence agencies that have been smearing everybody. It's this deep state. We need to indict corrupt judges who roll over for political reasons, left and right. The left, of course, has their sinister purpose of trying to pervert the Constitution. Well, the right, there's no guts on the right either, except for a few judges like Royce Lamberth and a few others in this country. They roll over too. Even that judge in Virginia with Manafort, T.S. Ellis, he rolled over. Big mouth he's got, talking about how Mueller exceeded his authority. But in the end, he didn't do squat, and excuse the French. So therefore, we need to bring these citizens' grand juries, and we're going to impanel one starting on September 24th of this year. We're going to get ready for that. We're going to start in my birthplace of Philadelphia. We're going to do it across from Independence Hall. It's going to be symbolic, but we're also going to get indictments. We're going to go to trial. We're going to get a retired judge or somebody to handle it. We're going to pick a petit jury from neutral voter rolls. We're going to try. We're going to convict. We're going to sentence. And yes, we're going to do citizens' arrest peacefully and legally. We have no choice. And if you're tired of watching Fox News and having this false hope, and I'm not trying to denigrate Fox News, okay? I'm just saying that somebody needs to start saying it like it is. You know why I'm not on Fox News? Because I say it like it is. They'll never let me talk about citizens' grand juries on Fox News. They're part of the establishment. They're worried about government retaliation. They're worried about losing advertisers. Well, we can't worry about that. We can't be like Sean Hannity. We can't run away from Cliven Bundy. We'll talk a little bit about that later. We can't run away from Sheriff Joe Arpaio. We can't run away from Judge Roy Moore. We believe in things. We don't put people on as guests to boost ratings. I want to see some new people there that are talking. It doesn't have to be me. Talking about what we need to do to save this country. That's the president watches Fox News. He needs to see what the reality is. The advice he's getting from his lawyers, from Rudy Giuliani, from Jay Sekulow, from the rest, it's get along to go along. I mean, that's what it is. And you know what? He's facing a real threat to his presidency. He doesn't know it's building. Robert Mueller, who's hired more leftist prosecutors, is there busily writing an impeachment report that's going to rip the president to shreds. And who knows? The president could even wind up being indicted. And that may be why he did put Kavanaugh in the court, because Kavanaugh thinks that you can't indict a president. Well, I got problems with Kavanaugh. So does Judge Napolitano. He's the one honest person on Fox News that tells it like it is. Let's give him credit. He pointed out, like I did, that Kavanaugh is a threat to privacy. He's a threat to mass surveillance on the American people. He rubber stamped that in cases that I have ongoing in the courts right now. And even a conservative judge took a dive because the intelligence agencies likely have stuff on him. So this is the world that we live in today. And we, the American people, if we want to save this country, we have to rise up and we have to do it for ourselves. And we cannot wait for the hapless and corrupt three branches of government to do it for us. And we need citizens' grand juries. Go to freedomwatchusa.org. freedomwatchusa.org. Sign up for our Justice League. Sign up for our citizens' grand juries. Sign up to support us. We need your financial support. We are your last hope. I'm not just being self-serving. I'm telling you the truth. We'll be right back with our second segment of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman.
Dangerous.
You don't hear, use the court and the law.
Lethal.
This is bad.
Special Prosecutor
Very bad.
Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
I want to get back into the nomination of Brett Kavanaugh. He's a Washington swamp creature. He's a product of the Bush-Cheney establishment in the Republican Party. He, of course, has been nominated for the Supreme Court. There were many, many other choices the president could have made that were much better. People located outside of Washington, D.C., judges who didn't go to Harvard or Yale. I don't care if you're conservative and went to Harvard and Yale. You know, it's time that we have some representation from law schools in the heartland of America, such as Notre Dame, such as the University of Michigan, such as Duke Law School, such as Emory Law School, where I went, and other places. This elitism of Harvard and Yale is destroying this country. These people think they're better than everybody else. Well, you know what? They're not. Most of the people that go there go around for the rest of their lives saying, oh, I went to Harvard and Yale. How great am I? You know, if you didn't, maybe you actually try a little harder and you get something done. So I wanted him to pick somebody else. And Brett Kavanaugh was revealed this week, you know, and it's not a crime, but he ran up tremendous credit card bills, exceeding his assets by a great margin. Apparently $50,000 of tickets to the Washington Nationals baseball team. Now, why did he do that in all likelihood? Because he knew that he had to curry favor with the Washington, D.C. Republican establishment if he wanted to be a Supreme Court justice someday. So he's probably taking them to ball games. He was lobbying them for years. He's been rumored to be the next choice, and is, of course, the next choice to fill the seat of Anthony Kennedy on the Supreme Court. And where I take offense to him, because I've had him in a number of cases, and he's very, very political. And this gets back to Fox News again. It gets back to selling Kool-Aid to the American people. I'm tired of Kool-Aid. I'm tired of the company line. I'm tired, you know, on the left, Robert Mueller's a man of great integrity. Well, you know, that's not true either. We know that. Well, the line is Brett Kavanaugh is a great constitutionalist. The bottom line is Brett Kavanaugh is a great political hack. And let me tell you why. And Judge Andrew Napolitano wrote a column this week on Fox News. Give him credit that he was allowed to publish it, but he's the only one that's been critical of Kavanaugh on Fox News, not even Jeanine Pirro. She's put her head on the sand. She's playing politics. O'Reilly invited her on the show. She wouldn't even go. You know, why are you ashamed to be on the show with one of your former colleagues, Bill O'Reilly? You know, a lot of people get attacked in this world. You got attacked in this world. But you need to stand up for what's right. And what Kavanaugh did, and this is why I'm tired of hearing this BS, for lack of a better word, on the conservative networks. We had 2 cases against the NSA. 3, actually. Claimant 1, claimant 2, claimant 3. I was the lead plaintiff. We got 2 preliminary injunctions against Obama's National Security Agency for this illegal mass surveillance without probable cause. That's when you spy on someone without any evidence that they're committing a crime or in the act of terrorism. Hundreds of millions of Americans, 156 judges, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Donald Trump, prominent businessman, Larry Klayman, others who challenge and fight against the government for justice, all surveilled. They got my bank records back in 2005 in Miami. I know that. So this is something that is dear to my heart, and we got these findings by the judge, historic. It was heard all over the world, that this was illegal Orwellian mass surveillance and must stop, preliminary injunctions. Well, that caused so much of an uproar, particularly after Snowden made his revelations and I represented other whistleblowers, that Congress passed the USA Freedom Act, which was supposed to prevent this from happening. But we know that the intelligence agencies, this deep state, run by these despicable criminals, John Brennan, CIA director at the time, James Clapper, director of national intelligence at the time, and even Republican ones that later took their place, so-called Republican ones, swamp creatures, continued to spy illegally. And that's why we know that President Trump was illegally wiretapped. Information was illegally unmasked. And what happened at that point was that the Obama Justice Department and the Justice Department after that went back to the court at the appellate level and said, we need to vacate the orders enjoining our illegal surveillance because now we have the Freedom Act, USA Freedom Act. And it was liberal justices, Clinton and Obama appointees, who simply said, order vacated. Of course, our cases continued on. That was just the preliminary injunction phase. But Kavanaugh took it upon himself to write an opinion which rubber-stamped the illegal surveillance. Why did he do that? Because even the Republican establishment thinks that that's fine. George W. Bush did this. Cheney did this. Others did this. He knew that he would need them to be nominated someday. And they pulled the wool over President Trump's eyes, and he wound up appointing this hack conservative justice. I'll tell it like it is. If it costs me support, I'll tell it like it is. But we're going to be back with the horror stories that are going on in Israel because we're not the only country that's under the gun right now.
And now, 4 words that make corrupt politicians make wee-wee in their little pants.
Transparency and the rule of law will be the touchstones of this presidency.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
Be the one who makes our country great again. Go to freedomwatchusa.org and donate.
We're back with Mai Golan of Hebrew City in Israel. We had her on last week, and the line died, and I was joking that I thought she might have been kidnapped by either Arab terrorists or the Jewish left, who kind of collaborate with each other, regrettably. But it's very important that we talk about Israel, because what's going on in Israel, our greatest ally, where we get our Judeo-Christian heritage, where we get the Talmud, where we get the Torah, where we get the Ten Commandments, all of these things, whether you're Jewish or Christian, are part of our heritage. And without the state of Israel, in my view, this country will cease to exist, because that's where we get our strength and where we get our guidance. So I want to introduce you again to Mai Golan. She's a great patriot of both Israel and the United States. I mean, she supported Donald Trump. She's someone who's fearless, who stands up to things that are going on which just aren't right. And of course, Israel is in a state of crisis right now, in a war between the Jewish left and the Jewish right, illegal immigration. So, Mai, I want to turn it over to you because I want you to explain what's going on in Israel and the similarities to the difficulties we're having in the United States.
Glad to be here with you again, Larry. And although I was kidnapped by by radical organizations. I was released a couple of hours later, so I can be here with you now. And I'm sorry the line broke last week. Similarities, whenever I hear about the justice system in America, we just talked about it, not too long ago, and you said at least you have justice system. But you know what? I really think, and I say it with a lot of pain, Larry, we don't have a justice system. We have a dictatorship under the false justice system pretends to have here. Because what they do here basically is that they overrule every major decision that the government is trying to pass off for its citizens. And it's, for the last 10 years, it's been really, really bad because you've been seeing them meddling in almost every possible, economics, safety, when we're talking about issues that involve, even the citizens of the city halls, when the city hall is trying to make something, the Supreme Court meddles. It's really, unfortunate. And if you see, for instance, the fight that I've been fighting with against the illegal infiltrators that are coming to Israel, the government has been trying for the last 7 years to pass a law that the only thing, this law has is trying to protect the borders of Israel, trying to protect her independence, trying to protect her safety, try to just demand to have the basic right of asking who is that person that's coming into your country and is he legal or not. And what the Supreme Court is doing is not just ruling off every possible law, but also giving those criminals, those illegal criminals that come into Israel, they're giving them more rights than the regular citizen, the law-abiding citizen have. And, for the last, I've been fighting for almost 10 years now, but I've very soon understood that the real fight is not against the government. It's not even against the illegals themselves. It's only against the Supreme Court, because our Supreme Court is combined from only 9 judges, okay? 9 judges who have very radical, very extreme left views. And not only that they control the majority of the public that does not agree with them, but they just ignore every possible other opinion. And I said, I speak a lot on the media here, although we have, a very lefty media, but they can't ignore my voice. But I speak a lot on the media here, and I said it just a couple of days ago, Larry, I said, what is the point of going to the elections, on election day and vote? What is the point? Because if we vote in the end of the day, we have 9 very detached from the reality judges, who sit in their Ivory Coast buildings, who really don't meddle in the poor neighborhoods, or any other cities that, have difficulties. They don't know what's going on there. They don't even want to know what's going on there. For instance, South Tel Aviv, the neighborhood I've been fighting for, I can promise you that none of the judges of the Supreme Court ever came to this area, and yet they give the illegal infiltrators from Eritrea and Sudan the majority on the actual majority, which is crazy. Okay, so I said it right in the face of the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, when I said in a meeting with him just 2 months ago, I said, if you don't stand behind your leadership, if you don't make the people who vote for you believe that you can actually act for what you promised them, then what is the point of voting again? There is no point. And when I look at Donald Trump, and what he's doing in this very short period of time that he's, being president of the United States, I'm in awe, really, because I say at least he fights. He goes all the way in. He does not cave, no matter what the media says about him, no matter what the radical left group says about him, he goes with his truth all the way for the people who vote for him. But I have to tell you, and no one can question my political opinion. I'm right wing, and I'm very proud to be where I am. But I am very, very disappointed from our leadership, and I'm disappointed from our government, because we have been pushing and pushing. And when I say we, it's not me, but it's the majority of the population in Israel has been pushing for real democracy. Larry. Real democracy. That's all we ask, because right now we have a fake democracy under the dictatorship of the Supreme Court. And all we want is to bring back the balance between the authorities. Let the judges decide on the courthouse, and let the legislation in the Knesset, in our parliament, decide on the rules. But they can't go against each other in such a horrible way. It dismantles all the logical balances of this country, and we see it not just on the illegals issue, but we see it on financial issues. We now see it if you see the terror, the terror that we have from Gaza, that are throwing kites of fire and burning our entire fields of Israel. Supreme Court does not allow us to act, which is crazy. Why do we have a cabinet, that's supposed to decide on such important issues for the safety of Israel if we have, again, 9 judges who overrule it? Really, it's an unimaginable reality that I have never thought that would happen in such a small country like Israel. And to see that it's happening in the U.S. and Donald Trump is fighting for it is, it's at least an inspiration from me, as a social activist, to see what politicians should really be about. They're supposed to be leaders, first of all, before of everything.
What we see here in this country, you have these leftist judges at the lower court level, at the appellate level. They still infest the judiciary. About 90% are Clinton and Obama appointed judges. And the president's lost virtually every case at this lower level, but the Supreme Court has overturned, has reversed these lower court decisions, whether it's on illegal immigration or, the so-called Muslim ban, which isn't a ban at all. I mean, that was mischaracterized by the left, healthcare, other issues. So we have the same problem. And what really, upsets me is to see that the U.S. Congress, I was talking about it in the first segment before you came on, can have these hearings, and they could bring these criminals like Strzok and Page, the 2 lovebirds who tried to destroy the president, and their colleagues are still trying to do it, and Mueller, Robert Mueller, and James Comey. They can do all these hearings, but nothing happens. Nothing happens. And we have a Justice Department which is inert, which does nothing. The Attorney General has his head in the sand because he's under investigation himself. So both countries are in grave jeopardy right now because we don't have a justice system. But, one thing that you have done in Israel in the past, and perhaps it was politically motivated. You have a former prime minister in jail. I mean, you have a current prime minister under investigation. I think probably what they're doing to Netanyahu is political, and it's probably a witch hunt like Trump. But at least something's being done. We hear the elites walk off scot-free with no consequence.
What we have here with the media is, is really crazy. We have a very, very, radical lefty media who basically not just on a witch hunt on the prime minister, but is on a witch hunt against everyone who has a right-wing opinion, anyone who dares to want this country to remain safety and to protect its borders, and whoever dares to want to keep the Jewish majority of this country actually Jewish, But we do have, unfortunately, and I'm saying it in a lot of shame, I'm not proud of it, but we had a Minister of Interior in jail, and we had a Prime Minister in jail, and we had a President in jail, and ministers in jail. Sometimes for things that are really unpolitical, but mostly about, corruption. But the problem is with corruption here in Israel is that it's really based in the top, people that makes decisions. And that's what scares me. Because when corruption goes so deep to someone like to a judge in the Supreme Court or to someone in the hierarchy of the police or, for instance, in the tax authority, then you understand that you're in a real danger. And I can tell you that the only way that we could have led justice to really happen here in Israel was through social media, because the media didn't give us any kind of stage to actually speak out. And again, because of Facebook and because of Twitter and because of YouTube and all these really social media that gave out, gave the voice finally. Who did they give the voice to, Larry? They gave the voice to the majority, which is funny because the majority of Israel, right, chose the right-wing government, yet they're not heard at all at the media. So what the social media did was basically forcing the media to give us a voice and then uncover the corruption, which is, in the left. There's no other way around it. So just like me, when I started fighting against the illegal infiltrators, and I was fighting against really, really evil organizations that, again, are funded by the millions by, countries who hate Israel around the world, by anti-Semitic countries. And I didn't have that money. I didn't have these donations to try and fight. So I went out through social media with my, dozens of followers that took the truth and put it out there. And for me, it was crucial. But, looking at Trump and what he does, for his people and speaking out, it almost feels, sometimes like he virtually speaks out the words that the people of America, has been wanting to say for so long. Because, when I was in America a year ago and I was a guest on the Sean Hannity show on Fox News, then, talking to him seemed like I was talking to one of, my people here in Israel, definitely not the media people, but the people who think like me. And finally, it occurred to me that it's a global war. It's a global war because the majority of the people around the world that have a certain opinion are being blocked. And they're being blocked by, as I said last time I was with you, by the billions of dollars of George Soros, by the New Israel Fund, who works day and night against every possible right that Israel has to stay as a Jewish country. And, for me, although Israel, it's hardly a dot on the global map, it's really a mirror to what's going on around the world. Because if Israel...
Yeah, no, you're courageous, okay? You're a heroine. We have just about a minute and a half left. I want you to tell people how they can support Hebrew City, because what you're doing is very important. And you're making the point that what's going on in Israel will affect the United States and vice versa, and that we need to stand up and use social media, radio shows, whatever, to educate the American people, to educate Israelis, so we can restore our country to greatness. So use the last minute, Mai, because I want people to help you. I want them to donate to your cause because you are so important.
Thank you. So our organization is called the Hebrew City NGO, which is a non-governmental organization. It's in Hebrew, it's Ha'ir Ha'ivrit. It's the same thing. And we have been working for the last 6 years as a formal NGO, and we have been doing everything that we can, me and many more activists around the country, to promote the truth, to put it out there and to protect the Jewish nation of Israel. And we survive only by donations. And you can reach me on May Golan on Facebook, M-A-Y Golan, the way you hear it, and at Golan May on Twitter, and of course also my YouTube page and the website maygolan.com. All these ways, you can reach us and help us. And in the end of the day, I come to the U.S. I try to talk to people who support Israel around the world to really understand that Israel is important.
We're going to have to break it at this point. We're going to have you on again. Thank you for everything you're doing from the bottom of our heart. We'll be right back with the last segment, the verdict of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman.
Before he was a trial lawyer, he sliced him and diced him.
People used to ask me, Larry, what caused you to start Judicial Watch and now Freedom Watch, given the powerful forces in this country that put you at risk?
In a meat packing plant.
I'm the son of meat packers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
A very special prosecutor, Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
I'm very agitated right now. You could probably hear it in the first part of this show, and you can see Mai Golan feels the same way about Israel, because the Western countries, the democracies, are collapsing under a justice system that doesn't serve the people. And it's not just here, it's in Israel, it's elsewhere. Resources are being used on witch hunts against presidents, prime ministers, whatever. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't clean up corruption. Mai actually talked about that. There have been corrupt politicians, at least in Israel at the high level, they've wind up going to prison. Here, nobody's been held accountable for 50 years or more. In fact, I don't know that they've ever been held accountable here, frankly. And that's why we need the citizens' grand jury. So on September 24th, in the city of brotherly love, in the visitor center across from Independence Hall with a big glass window so you can see where this country began. We're going to start these citizens' grand juries, and I need your support to do it. Freedom Watch needs it. Tax-deductible support. It's expensive. We're going to be camped out there, not just doing citizens' grand juries, but also holding trials, holding convictions up to the American people to see, of people like Hillary and Bill Clinton, of Robert Mueller, of James Comey, of John Brennan, former CIA director under Obama, of James Clapper, former director of national intelligence, of Barack Obama himself, who's been behind all of this illegality that's been going on. We'll hold corrupt Republicans accountable, too. Believe me, there are corrupt Republicans. I've always been nonpartisan. You see, that's what separated me when I ran Judicial Watch, which I founded, from the current Judicial Watch. They'll never go against a Republican in any possible way. And you can see that they sliver around Washington, the establishment Republicans. That's how we got Kavanaugh as a Supreme Court nominee. It's this American Conservative Union, Matt Schlapp. I call him Matt Schlock. Okay, he's a lobbyist. They want their guy in there because they want the favors returned. But let's focus right now on the real criminals. We need to make Hillary and Bill Clinton the poster boys of the legal system. They've been getting away with this for decades. They have lined their pockets with cold cash from China, from Russia, from elsewhere. They have illegally started an investigation. They paid for the Steele dossier, the Clintons and the Democratic National Committee, against the president. They're doing everything to bring him down. And when you see these vicious Democrats during these hearings on Capitol Hill, that's the only purpose that these hearings serve, is that they get to expose what we're really up against, the vicious left, which I think, basically are the disciples of the devil in many respects. And not just here, but as you heard in Israel as well. And the Jewish left wants to destroy the state of Israel. It's unreal. They side with the Palestinians before they reside with the people of Israel or American Jewry or anything else, or Christianity. So this is what we're up against. And it's why we need to take justice into our own hands. It's why we need to do it legally. We need to do it peacefully. We have that right. Justice Scalia said we have that right. So go to freedomwatchusa.org, contribute. We need the resources, tax-deductible contributions. We need you to stay informed. Join our Justice League. We are the superheroes. The American people are the superheroes. And what were the superheroes all about? They didn't look to government to clean up the corruption. They had to do it themselves because government had failed, whether it was in Gotham City with Batman or any place else. So this is the moral to the story. And I'm tired of turning on the television and hearing people say, gee, we're exposing a lot of information, whether it's my former group Judicial Watch or whether it's people on Fox News like Sarah Carter and others. Gee, we're exposing information. Well, what good is the information if you don't bring about justice with the information or the documents? So that's why we need to form a Justice League with you, the American people, with the superheroes of we, the people, with other groups who will join us. And there aren't many that'll stick their neck out. I don't know of any that'll stick their neck out like Freedom Watch will stick their neck out. Our founding fathers stuck their neck out. They risked their lives, their fortunes. They pledged their sacred honor to form a new nation. The least we can do is to do citizens' grand juries and indict people and try them and convict them and sentence them and arrest them peacefully and legally, which is our right. So go to freedomwatchusa.org, freedomwatchusa.org, join our Justice League. We'll be back next week, and hopefully we'll see some glimmer of hope from the government at that time, but I doubt it. So God bless you. God bless America. God save America. Right now, what we need is action, not words.